Well, nice. That wraps up topic 1. Big, hefty topic.
I like Minecraft.
So let's move on to topic 2. Let's talk about another hobby. Photography. How the hell did you start getting photography?
So that's your question is, how did I get into photography? And I don't remember exactly where it began for me.
Sure.
But I always remember looking through photo albums, like we've got so many family outings and everyone taking photos, and like it had to be either a disposable camera or everyone had their own individual camera where they put the film in.
Yeah.
And you had to go get it exposed and printed out, and like that was something you did. You went to Eckerd and you got your photos. You went to CVS, you got your photos. You went to the little random booth in the parking lot, you got your photos. Like you'd give them the camera or the roll, and it went away for a few days, and it came back. Or there was 1 hour photo, or you'd go do that. You'd walk around the store and buy a few things and just stand in the corner. And then your photos are ready. Mm-hmm. You come back in a little bit and your photos are ready. So that was something that I wonder what we got this time. I wonder what it looks like. So you've got 34, maximum 32 photos, and you're like, wow.
Oh, shit, I thought.
That was shit. Like, what the fuck happened here? It was all black and gray, and like, so I saw some of these photos, like, that's awesome. So then, like, my parents started giving me disposable cameras when I'd go on school field trips and stuff. Like, that's awesome. So we went to Indian Ladders, and we went to some farm, and like I had a camera, like no one else had a camera. I was like, I feel like a badass right now. Like I can take photos and whatever. I remember was it 8th grade? I think it was our 8th grade field trip. We went to New York, and I wanted to get a camera, and I said I wanted a camera. What I really wanted was like 4 or 5 disposable cameras, right? Sure. I said a camera, so then mom and dad got me a camera. That's fantastic. I really appreciate it, but I was limited to how many photos I could take. Sure. I've got a first time in New York City. Well, I think it was like my second time in New York City. First time where I don't have my parents like beelining it for their goal, their destination, then getting the fuck out. Right. It was like, cool, we're gonna go walk around Times Square, and we're gonna go to the Empire State Building, and we're gonna go to the zoo, and we're gonna go here. I'm like, this is awesome, Mm-hmm. So I had my camera, and I'm taking photos or whatever, and my buddy didn't have one. Mm-hmm. Mike, you remember Mike? Yep. So Mike didn't have a camera, and we saw Green Day. It was was it Mad TV or TLC or MTV or whatever studio was right there. It was like 2 or 3 stories up, overlooking Times Square, and you could see them. What's the mate? Billy Joe was up against the glass, like waving. Nice. And we're all like 8th graders walking across the street. We're going to fucking Planet Hollywood for dinner, and we're like, wow, look at this. And the teacher's like, get out of the road, let's go. And we're like, wow. So Mike kicks my camera. Mike's like, click. Like, there's no zoom. Yeah. It's just a disposable camera. So like, it's just a wall. Like I exposed the pictures, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, the fuck are these? Like, I don't remember taking these photos. I was like, oh. You wasted 8 on that? Like, like 1 or 2 maybe, but like, so now I was so much more limited. And that was the moment right there. I was like, I want something digital. Because that was the kind of the threshold of where like digital cameras started becoming a thing, because you remember this. I'm pretty sure you remember this. My dad always had a camera, camcorder on his, and I'm talking on his shoulder, because it wasn't a handheld. It was a shoulder mounted or a tripod mounted only kind of thing. Yep. Because it was 15 pounds, had VHS in it. Like, he had a freaking bag that had 2 or 3 blank, tapes in there. And like, all the time we had our Christmas tree cutting down, Christmas presents opening, like any and everything that could be recorded, he was recording. So like, kind of cameras were just always there. And it wasn't necessarily just like photography that I liked. It's more so like the camera aspect of it. I like the construction of them, where the lenses are, how the lenses are, how many lenses there are. Like, some of them are curved this way, and some of them are convex and concave, and there's just 5 or 6, 9, 12 of them, like, all linked together, and it all kind of like filters through to the sensor. And like, it was just mind-boggling of like, who figured this out? Mm-hmm. One. And then how did it all come to like, there's 90 different brands, and there's so many different cameras. They all have, here's the shitty one, here's the massive giant lens that's got a 700 millimeter focal, and like, holy shit. So like, some of them are just amazing, but like, he went from that giant camera down to like the little tiny Sony Handycam with the DVD, the mini DVD. Like it still weighed 7 pounds, but it had a little Handycam DVD in there, and like it was just so much smaller. So like it was really the cameras that got me. And I was like, at that moment, coming out of 8th grade field trip, I was like, I want a digital camera, and I don't remember if it was that year or the year after. For Christmas, I was like, I want a camera. So then they got me a Kodak digital camera, and it was amazing. I took it everywhere. I took as many photos as I possibly could. And that was the moment I realized that, like, not all cameras are created equal, you know? And it wasn't necessarily the digital that I wanted. It was the lens. It was the lens was everything.
Sure.
Right? And nowadays, like, the amount of ability in these tiny cameras in the phones is amazing because of the glass. You know, it's all about what glass you use, how you bend the light into the sensor, and how many you have doing the thing. It's pretty cool. But like going from that little Kodak digital camera, I had zoom, and I could save and delete and pop chips in and out, and like it was just really neat because like I would take a hike, I would go on a walk, I would go do something, I would have a field trip or whatever. And I could really take, like, you know, I'd have to limit myself on photos.
Sure.
I saw something I wanted to take a photo of, like it was a landscape, it was a person, it was something I found interesting. And, like, do I really need the photo? You know? And then like, at the end of the day, I'm like, I wish I took a photo of that. I didn't want to limit myself and be like, cool, I'm noon and my camera's full.
Sure.
It's like with the digital camera, I was like, click, 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 click. I can take 300 photos and not care.
Yeah.
And I can always, you know, the chip's full. Here's a new chip, you know? As where I'd have to 5-minute process of like re-roll the film back, put the film in there, and like, okay, all right, now we're ready.
Sure.
You know, I feel like I'm in Call of Duty, loading the freaking the big gun. What's the
the LMGs that take
LMGs
years
where you're just like,
I'm gonna die.
like he's right there. So I feel like I'm doing one of those with the camera, with the film camera, like, and then you still only have 32 pictures you can take.
Sure.
And those were only really so good of a quality. So I got that Kodak camera, and it was fantastic, and it got me through quite a few years. And then I realized that there's so much more to it. And I was like, whoa, like, what I really wanted was a DSLR, but I didn't know that, you know? So I want the interchangeable lenses. So I want something that I can take off so I can focus on a macro, and then I want something to take off so I can zoom all the way to that bird that's 1.5 miles away. Yeah. You know? Those are expensive assets.
Sure.
But then it's not only the lens, but it's also the camera body, and there's all sorts of things. So, like, there's so much tech involved with it. There's so many mechanical things with it, and, like, it was just the combination of all the stuff. I was like, this is really interesting to me. So I would carry a camera around with me everywhere I went for a little while. And I realized that it really annoyed other people.
Oh.
I would go on hikes, you know. I would go on hikes with Donnie and Julie. I'd have other friends I'd go on hikes with. Just go on hikes by myself. And going on hikes by myself was probably the best because I would stop and take photos. I'd take 5 steps, take another photo. I'd go take 3 steps, take another photo. I'd stop at that one spot and take like 9, 10, 15 photos. And then when you're trying to hike with somebody and they're like, let's go on a hike. I'm like, well, I'm going on a photographic fucking experience here. And, you know, documenting every step I take. And you're trying to get walking. Like, come on. What do you want to do? Maintain your heartbeat? Get out of here. So I'm you know, doing this, and it kind of was like, okay, so that's, you know, we got to find a balance.
Sure.
And that was having multiple cameras with me. I found at one time I had 2 film cameras with me and a digital camera. And one of the film cameras I actually built myself.
Wow.
It was a kit that I got off of photojojo.com, which is no longer doing with it. But they still are a website, but they were a website that had like crazy random oddball things in the photography world. And it was like little stands, little tripods, little camera lenses that you could put on your iPhone, and like so you could enhance the lens that the camera or the phone had. Funny straps and like little lens cap holders and all sorts of SD card chip holders and stuff like that. And one of the things they had down there was a TLR, which is a twin lens reflex. It's one of the old cameras where you look down into the viewfinder, and the viewfinder is separate from what's capturing the image. So there's two lenses. The top one, what you're looking at, and the bottom one's what's actually taking the picture, because that's where the film is. The film's here, and then the lens is here, and you're looking at a refracted image of it. Sure. So it was really interesting. I was like, oh my god, like that's the old style camera. Whenever you saw someone taking a photo, they were looking down at this lens, and then there was a second lens that was looking out and taking the photo, and they would like. So it was like the mechanical feeling of it, and it was just a little plastic kit, you know, it was $20.
Yeah.
So you take it all and you put it all together and you glue it all together, and like that was such a cool feeling of like I built this camera, you know.
Yeah.
I put film into it, 35mm film, regular film, and I would take photos with it, and then I'd go and get them exposed, and I'm like, wow, this is shitty photos. But like I took these, I built these, and you know, it was really cool. It had a vintage effect to it, you know. It was really neat. So then I ended up buying a couple of TLR cameras, you know. And they take different size film, and I was like, "There's more than 35mm." Like I didn't know this. You know, never really researched anything. I never really went into any classes. I never had any professional consultations with anybody. Everything that I've learned learned about photography, I literally have stumbled through of like, oh yeah, don't do that.
Sure.
So like right now, I brought it with me today. I have a DSLR. With two lenses on it, or the interchangeable lenses, and there's just so much to the camera that I haven't been able to like play with it or break it almost. Of like, yeah, that's a little too high of a setting, that's too low of a setting. Like I really need to go in there and figure out what all these buttons and digital menus do, and like there's so much more to it than what a film camera had. So with film, like you're pretty limited. There's a lot you can do with it, but like everything was manual. Everything was mechanical. So like you flip this dial and it really it did something inside the camera where like it's just going to capture the light a little bit differently.
Sure.
As with the digital menu, like I'm setting all these settings. And there's 40 different settings I can set. Excuse me. To like absorb the light, refract the light, put it in there differently. You can put a setting in. You can put filters in the camera already. You can put filters on the lens. Like there's so many different things I can do with this camera. I'm like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So like I'm still playing with them. I took it to Alaska with me, and I wish I knew the camera better when I was there. I got a bunch of photos of really cool stuff where I'm like, if I just adjusted a little bit, it'd been so much better. Because what I don't really like doing is having to take a photo and then go edit it.
Okay.
You know, I don't mind editing.
Sure.
I like editing. I will edit stuff. But I would rather do it right the first time. Yeah. I would rather take the photo I want and that be the photo than have to take it and edit it and like, well, let me go and, you know, make the settings up here and go down here and go this way and filter everything. And now the photo is like so far from where it originally was that I'm like, do I really like that? Is that where I want to go with it? And that's a whole nother part of it where editing is its own universe of like there's so many tools, there's so much you can do with it, and there's so many different programs to do it in that like that's a whole other education system. Right. Like it's photography is one thing, and then editing is a whole other thing, and then combining the two is like oof. that's staggering. But I kind of touched back on the video there where I really kind of got into videos too, and having a camera that was able to do both. You can't do that with film. You can't. I mean, you can, but like very, very tricky. Sure. You know. So having to have multiple cameras on me, not having to have, but wanting to have multiple cameras on me, I had a little bit of a bigger bag, and then I would be able to take, you know, I want my film camera right now, I want my TLR, I want my digital one, and you could take different photos, and there's I had digital cameras that didn't have removable lenses, but it was zoomable and stuff like that. And I really started learning like what optical zoom was versus digital zoom. I'm like, I don't want to crop the image down to the minimal pixels. I want to get all of those pixels into focus really well of like what it was supposed to be. So like you can still have a high quality image. And I love high quality images. Working with John Doe, I got to see a lot of really nice stuff, you know. Printing out things that were 40 inches by 60 inches, and like seeing it that close, you can see that you can read the person's freaking name tag on their thing. Like there's 100 feet away from the camera, or it's a drone or a helicopter taking a picture of this, and you can read the stuff on, like, you can read the license plates, like, what kind of camera was this guy using? What kind of lens was he using, you know? So all sorts of stuff that, like, it just gets farther and farther and farther into what's available out there, how many different things you can have in the world.
Sure.
That are just photography. So right now I've got a National Geographic bag. It's pretty rugged and it fits everything that I need to fit into it. And I'm using SD cards that are 128 gigabytes. So like I can fit thousands of photos on there. And like, what do I do when I have that much capability? Is I literally
Sure.
So like I'll go on a trip, and the trip was maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. It's just a hike. It's just a walk, you know. And I've taken 300, 400 photos, and I like 10, 15, 20 of them, you know.
Yeah.
So like there's just a bunch of shit that I've got to go through and delete and get rid of.
Sure.
Or I can use them and like stitch them together and make little videos out of them and stuff. And I was actually just playing with it this morning, where you can have a little click wheel and it just skips through all the videos really fast.
Oh.
And it almost looks like a choppy video.
Yeah.
Because I'll take click, 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 almost for like a panoramic, and you can kind of see the thing. Or I was on a boat, and there was a little island, and the boat was going past the island, and I took 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way around the island, and then going through the menu, I was like, wow, that's awesome. It's like, I didn't see it before. Yeah. I didn't see that capability before. And now I'm like, wow, that's really neat, because I was at the same angle, I was at the same height, and all I did was just go around it.
Yeah.
So like thinking spatially how it can be to do those kinds of things. I've always wanted to get more into video. But that's just a whole other realm of like, I've got to pay for this item, I've got to buy that, I've got to learn how this works, I've got to mount it here, so like, what do I want to really spend my money on? Yeah. And then once I get into that, I can't really as easily transfer that to like my phone. I could with certain ones, with certain cameras, but like I would almost need to have a computer in order to get the video and edit the video and, you know, put everything together and overlay audio, and like that's a little bit more of an in-depth thing where I'm like, yeah, I could do that. But I had a MacBook 2008, 2010, 2012, somewhere in there, and it was great. You know, it was really cool to have all the things, and I was able to do a little bit of video editing and put some stuff together. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. There was so many things I didn't know about, and I really just stumbled through a lot of it. But photography is one of those things that like, it helps me capture the moment. It's not necessarily the visual, it's more so I see the image and I remember who I was just talking to, what I was just doing, where I was, what happened just next, or what mood I was in, kind of stuff. And it really is nice to look through them again. Yeah. Yeah, I've got a few photo albums where I've taken digital photos, and I've got tens of thousands of photos that I'll print a few of them out, and I've got the album where I'll like, these are my favorites, you know. I'll go through those and look at those. So those are really nice. That's really a really cool thing to see, because I've got so many photos. I've got some of them printed out on the wall. I've got some of them in the albums here. I've got so many digital ones that are amazing that I would love to have displayed. But I'm not a huge fan of the digital displays, you know, those little digital frames. Yep. They get so hot. Like, it just seems like a fire hazard to me, you know? So, like, I want to be able to display them somehow and keep them all up. And then, like, there was, like, Nathan and Lily's birthday party. Sure. I took so many photos of that. And, like, I just end up with so many photos. Yeah. It's like, now I've got to think about storage. I've got a hard drive so I can put everything on there. And I've got to get everything to the hard drive. And, like, I want to back that up. I want to have multiple hard drives, so in case something happens to one, I don't lose all my photos. Yep. Versus, I mean, it's the same kind of concept of having them in albums, but like a little more fragile. Sure. And then like all of a sudden, USB is no longer a thing. Like, what the fuck do I do? Right. You know, we talked about this on the last podcast that I did with you. Was the fear of the something like Minecraft would be like, cool, we're no longer going to support this. Like, but I still like to play it. Right. You know? And I don't care that you're not adding anything new to it, but like, I can't log into my world now because it's stored on your server and I don't have access to something. Yeah. So like, making sure my photos are backed up in multiple places all the time, and it's just like gotta pick and choose what I really want to back up.
Yep.
That way I'm not like paying $1 a month for this service and $1 a month for that service. So like, why are you gonna charge me $1 a month? And then they decide they don't want to do it anymore. Like, okay, at least I have it over here. But like every time you move that digital file over here, you'll lose some quality.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've moved it 1, 2, 3 times and then back to me 4th time, like it's not the same quality of what I had. It's similar, it's very close, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not the same. And like knowing how everyone compresses their files and how they decompress them and making sure I can open the files the same size in the same way is like I kind of just want to go with digital, or I want to go with film because I know it's going to be the same,
Mm-hmm.
But it's getting harder and harder to find film, process the film. I've got a few rolls of film that I've got sitting at home right now that haven't been exposed.
Oh, sure.
And printed out because the last couple times I did it, they got lost in the mail.
Oh.
So I was like super upset.
Right.
I've sent 15, 20 rolls of film and like 1 or 2 got lost, but like that was multiple months of work, of memories and all sorts of, like I don't even know what I lost.
Right.
Which is even harder, because I can't remember what actual, like the one roll of film will last me 2 or 3 or 4 trips.
Yeah.
So like that's a lot of memories and stuff like that. And like I don't even know what they look like
Mm-hmm.
because they're not digital. I can't review them. And I took one photo of each of the things I wanted. And instead of the 13, 14, 15 of them, like, cool, now I've got many to choose from.
Yeah.
This is the best of those ones. There's so many times I'll walk up on somebody that's trying to like take a selfie of themselves or some sort of thing. I'm like, hey, can I just take that for you? Because like I hate that angle. I do it all the time. I'll try to just to capture the moment.
Yeah.
Because that's what I want. I want to be able to do that. But if someone were to take the phone from me and take the photo of me and the person and the whatever were nearby, that'd be so much better. That'd be the angle that I would love to have. But you can't do that so many times, or all the time with having a physical camera. Like you don't want someone to run off with it or whatever.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Just photography is something that. Helps with memory. Mm-hmm. There's some times where I'm like, what the fuck happened?
Sure.
When was that? And you show me a photo, I'm like, oh yeah, and then right after that, and before that, and like 2 days later, and it just sometimes you can't remember something, and then that photo comes up, and you're like, holy shit! So that was kind of circle back to where like Mom was showing the photo albums. Like these are experiences I wasn't even alive for. And she's showing me and she's telling me all about the stuff, and like I can look at those photos now and kind of remember some of those stories, and like it helps to see those things, and it's really cool to see those photos again years later, decades later,
right?
Of like, wow, I haven't seen some of these albums that my parents have since I was 10 years old, so to go and look through them of like, that'd be fun. So I want to figure out some way to organize all my digital stuff.
Sure.
But that'd be interesting to do.
Yeah, definitely.
But I've got my stuff with me today, and I wanted to stop and take a photo of those parachuters.
Oh yeah.
The skydivers.
Right.
And I was like, cool. I'm driving, and I was like, I see them. I'm gonna park right there. I need to do this, and this to get it all take a picture. I was gonna set it on my tripod so it was a nice steady photo. And they were instantly just behind the trees. So like having it with me is really nice because there's this one road. It's 22A, and it goes north from. It kind of borders New York and Vermont, and it just goes into Vermont. And there's a certain section where you're on it, and it's kind of flat. You're about 300 feet above sea level, but it's pretty flat right there. And if you look west, you can see the Adirondack Mountains. There's a nice big span of it, And if you look to your right, you can see all the Green Mountains, the Vermont mountains. Like, it's such an awesome spot, but like it's just a bunch of houses. It's like there's nothing there. There's farms and a couple random houses, and then just road. Yeah. So like I kind of want to find a couple of vantage points that I can go to, and like maybe a hike with a view, and like set up there for a day and like take as many photos because I'll go up that road in the morning and I see the sun rising in the east over the Green Mountains, and then I'll come home on that road and I'll see the sun setting over the Adirondack Mountains, and I'm like, oh, like I'm trying to drive and like look at this like view and like, oh, I don't want to be one of those a-holes that pulls over to the side of the road and is like in the road taking pictures. Like, dude, you know this is a 50 zone. Like people are going 70 through here. You know people are speeding. Mm-hmm. So like, you're gonna die trying to get the moment.
Right.
So like I want to try and find a vantage point and be safe about it and smart about it and like capture those moments.
Sure.
Because those are good memories. Those are fun things. They're beautiful. Be able to share them with people that have never seen that road. Mm-hmm. You know, it's right just north of here. But so many people haven't seen the sunset over the Adirondacks in that angle. That's the thing is like I like to share them. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's difficult to get it out to people because like you got to hashtag stuff.
Oh, sure.
And, you know, if so I've got the two Instagram profiles. I've got the one for the car and personal one. So the one for the car, I literally posted a reel today, and I didn't put any hashtags onto it because it was just funny, and like one person liked it. Like,
sure.
No worries. I'm not looking for the likes or whatever. Yeah. But like, how many people is that gonna reach if I don't do anything? Mm-hmm. Probably not half of my followers on that one profile. Because just the algorithm's not going to share it with them.
The algorithm.
Right. So, like, whatever that means, however it actually goes into their system and comes out on other people's screens, like, who's really going to see it if I don't do years of research of, like, well, this is the hashtag that I should use to get to these people, and, like, who follows this one, and, like, oh, my God, I just want to share shit into the world and see who wants to, like... Now it's being filtered through some sort of system where, like, you're curating it for me, and, like, no, your shit's not good enough. I'm like, fuck you, too.
Yep. The internet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, what do you put? What's too much? Yeah, it's a whole fucking game that I get it, but sucks.
Yeah. There were a few websites. I can't remember all the names of them, but Flickr. That was a really cool platform.
Sure.
And, like, I think it's still around.
I don't know.
But, like, no one uses it.
Sure.
It's like it had very good organization, but it was just photography.
Yeah.
And then they started allowing videos, or videos became kind of popular on there, and it went terrible. Mm-hmm. It just went bad because people started putting random shit in there, like, started making meme pages and stuff like, oh, okay, all right. I mean, I don't really want my Instagram to be... everywhere. Like, sure. There's certain platforms I go to, like, I just want to zone out for a few minutes and look at some stupid shit. And now I want to go to this one to look at good stuff. Sure. You know, I want to see some good quality photos, and, like, it's hard to find those nowadays of, like, where do I go to find that and share that and be in that part of the community, and it just constantly changes. Yeah. Because there's only 10,000 people that are into it, and they're all throughout the world, but 10,000 is not enough to pay the bills because the advertising, and, like, so we're just going to shut down now, like, okay.
Yeah.
It's like you need 11,000 people to cover your bills, I guess. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Very nice.
That's photography.
Have you ever considered going to classes or doing any type of education with it, or is it just more of like that self-discovery hobby type thing?
Yes and no.
Sure.
I've taken, so Photo Jojo had a website on it was an app on the phone that had, what's it called? It was just a tiny course.
Sure.
It was free. You were supposed to take all the photos with your iPhone. Okay. They called it iPhoneography. iPhoneography is what they called it. And you were supposed to take specific types of photos. You were supposed to use certain settings, certain angles, certain subjects, and stuff like that. And it was, I think, 2 weeks long, and you had to post stuff to them, and, like, that was really the course I took, you know. And it wasn't, I didn't pay for it. There was no instructor. It was literally like, here's instructions, go learn some stuff. Yeah. And I didn't really take a lot away from that, because everything that they were trying to teach you how to use your iPhone. It was almost like if you were new to taking photography with a phone, or new to photography, or new to phones. You know, it was kind of like those three groups of people were like, this is what we're trying to do. And I'm like, I'm over here, like, maxing out all the settings, and, like, I've already played with everything I could possibly play with. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess. So I wish I had something like that with a DSLR. But, like, there's so many different DSLRs, and so many different settings, and so many different lenses, and, like, many options, so many different options you can do with it. It'd be hard to kind of tailor it down of, like, do this.
Sure.
Do that. So if there was something like that where it was free, and I could do it on my own time, absolutely, I would totally do that. Yeah. But to go to, you know, what did you study in college? Oh, I studied photography. Like, I don't want to be a photographer like for a magazine or, you know, I don't want to be a National Geographic photographer. That'd be awesome to have those skills, but those people are sitting out in the woods for weeks on end to get the shot. You know, like, your task is to go capture meerkats. I'm like, where the fuck are meerkats? Like, okay, let me fly across the world to go sit in the fucking savannah and not get eaten by cheetahs, I guess. To sit there with this long lens that's, you know, so I can get the, you know, capture the meerkats. So, like, it'd be cool. Yeah. But, like, that's way outside the realm of what I want. It's just more so like a hobby level. Sure. I want to know what I want to know. I want to do what I want to do. And if someone wants to give me a little more of a tip and suggestion on some stuff, like, great. I'll definitely take your advice and play with some stuff and figure out, you know, what the hell you're talking about and how it applies to me. But to go through a course where they're like, you have to do this and you have to do this and we're going to grade you on it, like, fuck you. No, I want to do what I want to do. I want to take the photos I want to take. I want to take the videos I want to take. And, like, it'd be great if I had instruction of, like, yeah, if you went 2 inches up this way and zoomed in a little bit more, you could have a better shot and, you know, crop it differently and, you know, turn your settings this way and you'd be so much better. It'd be professional quality. But, like, I'd rather figure it out as I go. Sure. And if I don't know, I don't know, you know? So, cool. That's something that I would love to explore more, but I think I'd need more computing power again, with and time. I would need a whole bunch more time to be able to sit down and play with it. Yeah. A hobby is something that I invest as much time as I can, but there's a certain point in which I can't put any more into it. Yep. Without going to a next level of, like, I need to expense something to get me there. Sure. Whether it's time off from work or a piece of equipment or knowledge and how to use it a little bit better. It's just something that, like, there's always a little bit of an expense that's, like, not necessarily in the way, but, like, if I get there, I get there. If I don't, I don't. So. All right. Yeah. Very cool.